Okay, so Blizzard has finally taken some big swings and addressed the tanking issue that has existed on the Season 3 PTR since we began testing. First, I'm going to give you the TLDR of all the notes, and then we're going to go back and I will tell you why these tank changes are so important. All right, first and foremost, Death Knight, Unholy, a little bit nerfed. This is fair. Frost, nerfed. This is very fair. Sand Lane, I don't actually know what they're doing with this. This affects Blood more than it affects anybody else, but that's fine. All right, Blood, all ability damage increased by 8%. Good, needed it. Frost, all ability damage reduced by 3%. Yes, actually needed more than this, but that's fine. Demon Hunter, all damage increased by 8%. Not for you Havoc enjoyers, only for Vengeance. Good for Vengeance. Mastery Fellblood, this is actually this is insignificant. Feral Druid, Kitty stocks are up. All ability damage increased by 8%. This is the only DPS in all of these notes to receive a big 8% buff. Huge stocks for Feral. Guardian, all ability increased by 12%. Massive. Chrono Warden Presevoker. If this says what I think it says, and this is a straight up extra effect to the 4-set bonus, and they didn't replace it, this is massive. This is ridiculously powerful and actually gives Prez a literal niche in keys. Like, this is wildly good, so I'm curious about that. Scale Commander. Yeah, fair. Augmentation. Rest in peace, Aug. You will never be played again. Devastation. Good. Beast Mastery, this is for Dark Ranger. Nobody's really playing it. That's all right. Marksman, Black Arrow damage. Good change. Needed more than this, to be honest. After all these changes here, basically all you need to know about Hunter is that Marksman needs more. Beastmaster, however, got nuked. Beastmaster, this is the only compensation. All damage reduced by 5%, plus the fact that this got nerfed again. This is rough. This is rough. Beastmaster not looking too hot right now. They nuked Beastmaster, and that is sad. Rest in peace, Beastmaster. Your pets will be forever missed by the people who enjoy simplicity. All right, great. Mage, Frostfire. This is the tree they weren't playing. Just to clarify, this was buffed. This was the tree they were playing in keys. This was nerfed. Fair nerf. Fair nerf. Fair nerf. It's not the craziest nerf in the world, but this is a fair nerf. Herald of the Sun. I don't know what this means. Holy. Pillars of Light, Beacon, Virtue increased by 25%. I do know what this means. It's a tooltip issue. I hate when they do this, though. They're like, they give people hope. It's like, oh, look, Holy Paladin got something. It's like, no, it's just a tooltip issue. All right, bet. Shadow Priest, massive. What in the world is happening here? How did this happen? I don't understand how this happened, actually. Massive buffs to Shadow Priest? Huge, like literally massive buffs to Shadow Priest. I don't think they needed this very much. Elemental Shaman, Ancestor, Chain Lightning. Yeah, nobody cares about this. Nobody was playing Farseer Elemental Shaman, really. So, Totemic Enhance, slight buffs. I believe this translates to slight buffs. Didn't really need it, but okay. Elemental needed it, but these are big. Those are big numbers. Those 35%, 50%, etc., etc. Now, to clarify, because we're almost at the end, and I'll go over this again, this is not as big as it seems because these are all single target abilities, and they're not a huge, crazy amount of your single target except for Elemental Blast, etc., etc. Like, these are mostly filler spells, so don't worry. These seem like crazy changes. They're not like the craziest in the world. But anyways, Warlock, Demonology. Rest in peace. I was hoping they'd leave this, but unfortunately, Demonology get nuked. Bye-bye. Affliction, get buffed. Nice. Gives Affliction some prow damage, actually. Arms and Fury Warrior, all damage increased by 5%. This is the first time I have done these TLDR notes where actually both DPS warriors got buffed by a flat amount and they both needed it. So fantastic. Good for them. They finally received it. And now we will go over and now this is the end of the TLDR. So now we're going to go over why these are such huge, massive swings, okay? This change, actually, more than anything, has serious implications on the meta. Like these set of notes, although they're smaller, they have significant ramifications on what we're going to end up playing next season. And let me explain. First of all, Warrior was already a niche pick if you need a Warrior buff. They need to buff this, I think, by another 5% before it's a decent pick, but at the very least, this raises them a tier. 5% on both DPS Warriors. There was a world where even if they were completely dumpster, you would still play them in a comp that needs a warrior buff. Attack power is very valuable. So 5% up on their personal damage. Now you're still gonna feel like a cuck with respect. Like you're there to buff the group. Like you're not really there to be a plate wearing hack and slash a thing. Like, you are bad, but you exist to help other people. And it's not a necessary, it's a rough time, I think, to be a DPS warrior, but this will at least give you more value and help with the perception that you cannot do anything by yourself. Like, this is helpful and is a good change for warriors. Okay, affliction. This is an interesting buff. It's not the craziest buff. As unstable affliction, the way that you do this is you apply this to your main target, sub a dark layer damage. The damage by dark layer itself doesn't actually do that much damage, so this is okay. But what's interesting is the focus malignancy. 80% to target suffering from unstable affliction. That is a single target buff. Quite a bit of single target buff, actually. Basically, 40% more damage from Malefic Rapture. That's quite a bit of your single target. And the way that affliction works is that means that whoever you put UA on the main pack actually takes 40% more damage from this. It's not the most insane, but this weirdly gives affliction funnel. Like, this is actually a change that gives Affliction Warlock that niche of like, hey, look, we have one pull. You put UA on the big target as you're ramping. You are doing more damage to that big target. And because there's a big pull, you have all your agonies out. You are technically getting funnel, which is very interesting. And even in like pure single target, if you can pull 8 targets on a boss, Affliction now has a bit of funnel. It kind of had it before, but not really. But 40% is kind of a large number here. So interesting buffs to Affliction. I would say I would honestly say it raises them a tier. Like, yes, they still have fundamental problems, and what they really wanted was a Vile Taint change, but this is okay. I think that Affliction Warlocks will be happy about the fact that they got this. Demonology. Yeah, I kind of figured this would get nerfed when I made the last tier list, I put this all the way in S tier, and people were like, nah, and I was like, dude, it does so much damage. Like, you're just casually doing 5 mil single target, and you are absolutely owning. So these are fair nerfs. Like, this is a lot of your damage. They didn't really touch Runation, and they kind of touched the tier set. It's enough to drop you out of S, unfortunately. These are nerfs to Demonology. It needs to be doing crazy damage. It doesn't have a group buff. It's a niche pick in keys. So, unfortunate. I really like Demo, and I think it's a super fun spec. Elemental. Okay, so basically what this is, these are single target buffs. But you don't really prio a lot of these abilities. Earthshock is just if you don't play Elemental Blast. As far as I know, I haven't played Elemental in a bit myself this last season and going into next season. But as far as I know, you're still playing Ele Blast. 25% on this is not bad, but in the actual breakdown, this is not like a crazy amount of your damage. So it's a fair single target enough, this one right here. Lightning Bolt increased by 35%. You do cast this, but once again, right? Lava Burst, you do technically cast this, but the way, like, it's a single target buff. In AoE, it's not that crazy. In AoE, this will give you, oh boy, pocket math. I'm not an elemental shaman expert. I want to say 1%. I want to say like 2%, like a few percent. Let me slightly more than that, like a few percent in AoE. You didn't need that in AoE anyways. It doesn't address the fundamental issues of how you are a 3-minute spec still. It doesn't really change that, but at least I think Elemental Shaman, it needed this, so good for them. Totemic, I was reading this, and to be honest, I think this is a small buff because, right, 100% instead of 200%. This one's here. I'm not an Enhancement Shaman expert. They don't really need any help. Like, they were already the premier DPS spec, and I think they still will be even after this, but Ellie Shami stocks are up. I don't love playing with an Elemental Shaman. I'm kind of okay if they stay, like, B tier instead of actually, like, mandatory as a Shaman buff, but I think these buffs are pretty decent. Okay. Nobody really plays Farseer Ellie, so this is irrelevant. Okay, Shadow. What is this? How did this? What is this? How did this happen? They didn't need this. They're already good. What? Okay, I don't think. Okay, listen. We'll take a step back for a second. I don't know what Insidious Ire is. I'm blanking on what this is. I believe this is a newer thing for them. This is a nerf, right? But that is a massive buff. Psychic Link direct damage, 40% instead of 35%. This is significant. This is beyond significant. Psychic Link is how they deal AoE damage and why they're so good in keys. You buff that by 5%. That's a lot more than 5%. Like, to clarify, when Psychic Link gets affected, you gotta understand how big of an actual damage increase that is in keys. The Mind Blast, Mind Flay, Insanity is whatever. It's like a little bit of damage, but because all of that cleaves, this is a crazy AoE buff to Shadow. They did not need this. I have to triple check and let me know in the comments if you can clarify for me exactly what Insidious Ire is. I was blanking on it as I read this, but I'm pretty sure this is a massive buff to Shadow. If I am wrong about this, please tell me. Shadow Priest. Okay. Holy, this was hilarious, man. I read this and I was like, okay, Paladin getting some changes, hero talents, fish and issues, tooltip to display. Even if it did give 6 stacks of Dawnlight instead of the intended 2, Holy would still be in a rough spot. So, as funny as it sounds, they could have just left this at 6 stacks actually, and it still wouldn't have really made that much of a difference. But okay. This is Pillars of Light, Beacon of Virtue, healing increased by 25%. Okay. Fire. This one was fair. So Fire was overperforming by very, 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 very good players. My problem with Fire Mage is still that the average Fire Mage, it's a very difficult spec to play. So even if this nerf didn't come in, I still think the average Fire Mage would not be doing like top single target. I think they would be kind of mid and average. With this nerf coming in, 10% to Ignite is a large value. This is how they deal damage. This is a big deal about this, right? And control destruction. This is huge. This is further nerfs to Ignite. The problem is that when you nerf Ignite too much, it's the opposite of Psychic Link in terms of the fact you buff Psychic Link, this happens. If you nerf Ignite, this happens. It's actually a large percentage of your damage because it's how you deal AoE. You dump all your damage into a big single target and then it spreads. Nerfing this is a good hit to Fire. I think that this would drop them like significantly. Actually, they're still going to be good at the highest level, but at the mid level, like I said, Fire Mages, it's difficult to play Fire well. So I think that this is a quite a large nerf. Anyways, would you ever play Frostfire as Fire? I don't know, to be honest, exactly, but I curious. Ignite damage. But I don't think you could ever play Frostfire in actual content, like in keys. But maybe this is enough to make it competitive. Again, not an expert, but seems to me like this could maybe, but I don't think so. I have a feeling that you still won't end up playing this. I think it's more of a buff to Frost. For Frost one actually got nerfed. Never mind, because Frost did play this. Rest in peace. All right, this is another big change here. Hunter was touched, but touched in the wrong way. You don't want to be touched in the wrong way. Hunter, Beast Mastery, Dark Ranger was buffed slightly, which eventually you might play it because they keep nerfing Pack Leader, all right? Here's the problem with this. They keep touching Beastmaster. And let me go over Beastmaster first. All right. Attack speed bonus reduced to 3%. And pet damage reduced by 3%. Okay. So this is another nerf to this. Stampede damage reduced by 20%. I think that this ability has been reduced by, is it 75% now? 55%? Like this, the tier set was why they were doing so much damage and was largely passive, so you couldn't mess it up. This is an issue. Stampede reduced by 20%. This talent also nerfed, and all damage reduced by 5%. Beastmaster, you unfortunately get dropped down. Like this is an actual. Now they keep doing this. The last one was 3% plus a Stampede nerf. Now it's 20% and 5%. So eventually Beastmaster will actually drop down. It's sad, but I like when Beastmaster is good because it's very hard to mess that spec up. Killer Instinct has been updated. This is actually a buff because Kill Command cleaves, right? It's not nothing, but it's not nearly a compensation. Like it's the tiniest little buff to compare to the 5%. Okay, so Beastmaster nerfed. Marksmanship Hunter was not nerfed. This is my problem with these Hunter changes. Beastmaster down, but Marksman wasn't touched. Marksman is actually doing a little bit more damage than Beastmaster. It's just slightly harder to play. But Black Arrow damage reduced by 8% is not a real nerf to Marksman, right? The Sentinel nerfs are real. This is an actual nerf to Sentinel at the very least. But a lot of Hunters were still playing Dark Ranger. So what's interesting, right, is they did clarify the Dark Ranger is only for Beastmaster that's getting buffed, but Black Arrow only by 8%. If this is all that happens to Hunter, Hunter stocks are looking up and you'll play Marksman. Marksman's doing a lot of damage in keys. Devastation. It did need this. In my opinion, Dev is too niche to not do a lot of damage. But this is actually a lot. 3%. It was already doing fair damage, but now it's going to be more competitive. So nice changes here. AoE, AoE. And all damage increased by 3%. Very solid. Look, they could buff Og by another 10%. I still think it's too far behind. My worry is, of course, if they buff it too much, they'll just nerf it again. Like, they will just nerf it. They don't want you to play Og very clearly. So these changes to augmentation, it's not going to be meta. It'll feel slightly less bad to play, but it was very far behind on purpose. They don't want you to do it. Like, accept the fact that because when they changed how Og works, if they ever made it actual competitive DPS, then it is broken. It's just the most, then it becomes very, very broken. And it can't be the actual equivalent DPS just because of how it works. Cool. And I'm not talking about the healers and buffs. I'm just talking about their natural CC kit. And just the way that it works is if they're competitive DPS at the highest level, they do absolutely nothing at the lowest level and mid keys. And then if it's competitive DPS at the mid key level, it's completely broken at the high. It's just like there's a problem fundamentally with augmentation. They will never, I don't think they'll ever find a way to balance it so that it's just good. It's either really good or really bad. But Barman's damage now increased by, this is good. This is interesting, actually. To be fair, this is a buff to Scale Commander, both Og and Devastation. But I think Devastation will still end up playing Flame Shaper. Okay, I read this. I need to get on and test this. Now, additionally causes. If this replaces the 4-set, I'd be sad. If this is a addition to the 4-set, they just randomly buffed it, great. Because they said the damage of Essence abilities. And what was the healing? Oh, wait a second. I've reread this again. Let me clarify what this actually means. It is an interesting change, but I misread it. I just realized. I read that as Empower abilities, and I was like, that would be turbo broken. This is not turbo broken, and that's my bad. It's Essence abilities. I misread. It's 6 a.m. for me. Give me a break. Okay. Essence abilities. This will give you some potential to cast Disintegrate and play E-Loop. It might change the playstyle a little bit, but the problem of Essence abilities is that you don't play Blossom. You're not playing Blossom. Pres Evokers, get out. You're not playing Blossom as Chrono Warden. You're not actually pressing that button. So what you're pressing is Echo and Disintegrate. They're talking about Essence abilities. Oh, okay. Well, it's kind of disappointing and almost nothing then. If you play E-Loop, you'll be slightly more encouraged to press Disintegrate, but there's a world where they could buff that by 50% and it's still borderline wouldn't be a damage increase, so maybe you're encouraged to press Disintegrate now. Okay. That's, all right, fair. Okay, all right. Otherwise, you just get a little bit more passive healing through manual echoes. That's fine. Guardian. Okay, this is it. Here we go. Nope, this is the part. You could have skipped everything else, and this is what you need to know. This is what you need to know, because we're finally to the part that I was just like, yes, I was just like, yes. So excited this morning when I read this. Great. 3 tanks got buffed in their damage. This was a thing they should have done way long ago because all the tanking tier lists agree. There's a problem with tank damage. The discrepancy between these tanks and these tanks have never been higher. It's really, okay, not never been higher, but it was way too much. Blizzard likes their tuning a little closer. Yeah, there has to be a tank down here, but there can't be a tank down. Like, it can't be like this. There cannot be a mountain between them, all right? We're not athletic enough to cross mountains anymore. Listen, okay? This is a massive change. 12% all ability damage is great. It doesn't actually fix the problem, but it does make it better. Because before, it was actually trolling to play Guardian. You were like so significantly behind that you were just inting the team. Now, you're not inting the team. You're still behind. I actually think 12% to all Guardian damage, as hilarious as it sounds, does not bring them that much higher. like with respect, even a 12%, it just brings them closer to Brewmaster. It brings them closer to Prot Warrior. It doesn't actually surpass it whatsoever, but this is good because the fact that they gave it this value, Guardian will now be here, which is mid, and that's so much better of a feeling than being down here, which is dumpster. You don't want to be dumpster. It's fine to be mid. It's all good, man. So this is excellent. I'm happy to read this. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, can I play Guardian? Like, I won't be trolling as much. So it doesn't address the CC difference or how keys work or anything like that, but at least all ability damage 12% is solid. Feral caught a random 8%. Physical comp, dude. Physical comp. I don't even know if they kind of needed like 3%. 8% is a lot. 8% is a lot for Feral, so we like to see Ferals doing well. So I wonder if you play Feral, Guardian, Resto instead of Boomy. Maybe Boomy is not in this season. Demon Hunter all damage increased by 8%. They also needed this. Look, I know VDH, I know you wanted to get nerfed, but and I kind of do too. But they actually did need this. Like their damage was also very low, just like Guardian. Their individual damage contribution was so low. 8% will feel pretty good. Mastery Fellblood. This is not a big deal, dude. It's not a big deal at all. It gives them slightly less armor and slightly less attack power. Uh, 17% is kind of a big number, but I just don't think it will really affect them. Like it's the tiniest durability nerf. I think they're really afraid to swing at Demon Hunter and make it like squishy. Because of the way it works is if you make it squishy, you won't even survive living the pull. So that you can get into your frailty stacks and everything like that. So I think that this is all right. They could do a little bit more. This is basically just a flat buff to Vengeance. The Death Knight changes. All right, look, I think that Frost actually needed potentially a little bit more than this. I'll talk to my Frost people and ask them exactly how much this is. It was still the best melee specialization, but now it's going to be more even because one thing that Frost really only relies on is damage. Like it's durable but doesn't have a group buff. So there's a very real world now where Havoc is sort of equal. There were some other melee that were doing very well. If you nerf Frost enough, it brings it again, not just from an S++ to like A or high S. You know, it's just like you just make it in line, and that's kind of what we want. We want specs to be competitive, like kind of, you know, closer together. We don't want them to be this massive mountain between them. So fair enough. I want to see how this plays out on PTR. Blood. All ability damage increased by 8%. Solid, but this needed more. I think that Blood of all the tanks was the one that needed a 15% instead of 8%. Guardian got 12%. Blood needed 15. The problem is that if they give Blood 15, it becomes very good in raid when you don't require a group buff from the tank. In keys, the issue is that Blood doesn't have a group buff. So 8% individual damage, great. However, doesn't directly affect their contribution to the team. Whereas Guardian still provides Mark of the Wild, which is very valuable, and Demon Hunter still provides a Chaos Brand. So them getting buffed individually, Blood technically is the one tank that would need a 15% increase. But those are big swings. I mean, 8%, 12% on tanks, this is a massive change. Like that, those are the three underperforming tanks. You bring them up enough, and now the tank meta gets affected. Like you could play more than you could play before. It feels really good. Those are excellent changes. I'm very excited about this. I'm actually like super tempted to just log on right now, but I gotta do some work and some errands. Oh, 6:52 a.m. my time. It's not gaming hours. Okay, I will be on soon, and I will go test most of this. I really want to see exactly what I can put out Guardian wise. I will log it, and we're gonna see. Very excited to test this. I think all these changes were relatively good for the game. Shadow getting a random buff, I'm not so sure about, but I am very curious. Let me know what you think if your class was missed again. Windwalker Mongus, I'm so sorry for you. Blizzard has forgotten you, but I never will. And I'm excited to test this on stream today, so I will see you next time. All right, bye.